refer to Aesopian language, if I'm pronouncing that correct, Aesop,
Yeah.
Aesopian language, how did the Rebbe utilize that in his talks? What does that mean?
So it's a literary term that there's, with all literary terms, there's a certain amount of debate over the edges of it. The sense in which I use that phrase, and you're correct, it derives from Aesop, the famous ancient author of fables, that Aesop would talk about, the fox and the grapes, or the fox and the hedgehogs, and all kinds of mashalim, all kinds of parables. And on the one level, you can appreciate the parable just the way it stands, right? Like one that I was talking about with my son the other day. It's just a statement, a one-liner from Aesop. The fox, and they usually often foxes, they involve foxes. In fact, the Gemara talks about them as maise shualim, right? The stories of foxes. The fox has many strategies, the hedgehog has but one, right? And what that, on the one level, just appreciating it, on a literal sense, that means that, the fox, very clever, always planning things, will see a hedgehog run into its burrow and stick its spines outward, and the fox will dream up all kinds of things to try and dig around the burrow, try to attract the hedgehog out so he can attack him or whatever, and he'll think of all kinds of ways to deal with it. The hedgehog, he doesn't know how to deal with that kind of intelligence, but he knows that if he gets into his burrow and he stays there, eventually the danger will pass. So that's the literal understanding of it. But the Aesopian dimension is that, no, this is talking about business. This is talking about politics. This is talking about human affairs of all types, that, there are some people who will constantly find all kinds of ways and stratagems. And maybe if I invest over here, and maybe if I buy this kind of business, and maybe if I, get this kind of education, maybe that'll all work. But in reality, some people just stick to one basic thing that they know works. And in the end, it's a pretty reliable strategy. So that's what the Rebbe is essentially doing. He's using that kind of multi-tiered hierarchy of meaning, where you can read his drashos, and they're basically almost, especially for the first 2 years of the war, they're basically Chumash Rashi, and just exploring Pshat and Chumash Rashi, very, very accessible level. But on the other hand, when you understand that he and his audience were completely aware of some act of collective punishment where the Nazis rounded up 200 men and shot them all in public, or when there was rumors that the Nazis were losing in the Western Front, and then it turned out that the rumors were false, and that that's what the audience is thinking about, then the Aesopian dimension of his words acquires so much more meaning. That's really what the story is all about. It's not about the fox and the hedgehog. It's about the approaches to life that the mashal are referring to. That's the nimshal. And so that's really what the Rebbe is doing over and over again with tremendous creativity and tremendous energy every single week. You can imagine him reaching deep down to be able to produce these kinds of visions to give his Hasidim strength. It's a good thing you're asking questions, because otherwise I could just talk for like 60 minutes, no stop about this.